been pushed.
Okay, let's wait for the first people to join in and comment.
Exactly. Now, first of all, we need to make sure that the stream is fine. It says that we're live, so this is always a good sign. Now, I know for sure that there are some people really looking forward to this chat, mainly because of Australia. It seems to be like the goal of everybody to have to go to. Actually, you know what? You have a little bit of time. You can actually share. Yes, there is already people watching. Hi, Yon. You know, share to the share that we are live and tell people to join in. You know, in case you have friends and families.
Yeah. I'll update the post on Facebook.
Very good. I'm waiting for Mirko and for Chris to join in.
I
talked to Chris.
They will gonna join in.
I talked to Chris. I said, line up all your artists. I'm gonna interview them all.
Yeah, it's gonna take you ages though.
But you know, lately I've been talking a lot to Mirko, which is the guy that actually pointed me to your because I know you because of your 3D work, but I didn't know you by your photography work. And this is something that, you know, we are going to talk about extensively because I really like the stuff that you're doing. Hi Luca, welcome in. That there is already like about 5 people joining. Let's give them another minute.
Is it Luca from Synthetica?
I don't really know. Luca Brescianin.
Yeah, I think it's a French dude. Luca, if it's you, just maybe confirm.
Isn't that beautiful, the interactivity of the... Hold on, I see my face, it's a little bit dark. So since I have a proper light set up here... Yep, that's the Luca.
I set up a halo behind me to make it look more majestic.
It takes skills. Hi, Milan. Okay, so we have about 10 people watching. This is really good. And time is flying already. We're already a couple of minutes in.
Yeah.
So is anybody from Australia here that knows the guy that I'm about to interview? My God, you know, there are 30 degrees now in Tel Aviv and I'm sweating already.
I just finished my 15th hot tea this day, probably.
It's, you know, people that live in warm areas, the people that live in cold areas, they cannot understand people that live in warm areas. It's
no.
Dude, so I see about 12 people joining in. Is everything okay with the sound, with the picture? Guys, let me know. It's cold in Sydney here. Luca, I think I talked already to Luca sometimes directly. I'm pretty sure of it. And it says that it's cold in Sydney. He's also in Sydney.
Yeah, he's in Sydney. We met, I think, two weeks ago for coffee.
Oh, that's
nice. I don't know. Luca and Romain, his business partner.
Okay. Dimitris is also joining us. Very nice. Okay, so we have a bunch of people. I guess we can start with this conversation. Yeah. How do you feel about this?
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Pumped. on a Sunday evening when it's dark outside. It got dark at 5 o'clock actually. So it's been a long evening for me already. So
I should have called you a little bit earlier so I could have you know, practiced my German because I never get the chance to talk about. My wife refuses to talk German to me. So we have Aishwarya, I think it's his name or her name, I don't know, from India. Very nice. Mirko Venturi is saying hi. Martino. André, bom dia from Portugal. Hola André, tudo bom? Look at me getting all like polylingual. All right, so Martin, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time. I know that it's what is it there? 9 o'clock, 9
o'clock.
Yeah,
it's past bedtime for me. Yes, so let's make it quick. You
got a big day in front of you tomorrow. So you are who are you? Give me a little bit of a context of who you are, because otherwise I'm gonna make a very silly introduction, and I don't think it's fair. Go for it.
Okay, just a quick rep. I'm Martin. I'm a German living in Sydney now. I've been here for about 3 years. 3 years ago, we moved. My girlfriend and I, we moved to Sydney. My background is architecture. I'm actually still registered as an architect in Germany, just put on hold or paused or
just
whatever
in case.
Just in case. Well, retirement maybe, or just for the business card. Yeah, architect. I've always worked in 3D since I graduated in 2003. So 3D was always part of it. I tutored in uni back then as well. Mental Ray, Max, the good stuff.
The good old times.
Yeah, and like I said, 3 years ago we moved to Sydney on a sponsored visa. The company who brought us here is Binyan Studios. I'm sure people from the industry know who they are. Shout out to Binyan, obviously. Yeah, and quite recently, 2 months ago actually, so 8 weeks, I decided to move on and do photography and videography for architecture studios, developers, and render studios. And yeah, it's been 8 weeks, 8 scary weeks, but kind of busy as well. So I'm all thumbs up for that. So far, so good.
It's very interesting to me, you know, this whole thing, because, you know, okay, we're probably gonna jump from one place to another, and that's okay. You know, it doesn't matter. I want for us to share as much information as possible, because one of the main questions that I get asked is, how do you get to Australia, first of all? And what's life in Australia like for people that do the kind of job that we do? Then later on, we're going to go into the specific, because the reason why I'm talking to you, it's mainly because of your photography, because of course you're a very good artist, but your photography is just something that, you know, I cannot wait to show people. But one thing at a time. Prego, prego.
Yeah, one thing at a time. Yeah, shoot, just ask me anything. I'm more than happy to.
So first of all, how do you get to Australia? How did you personally get to Australia? And what it's like to live in Australia and do our job in Australia?
So maybe I'll start with why I basically changed from architecture, from sitting in an office working on competitions for big studios to 3D only, and now to photography. Architecture at some point kind of got a bit boring, I guess. I mean, I was still doing designs and competition, which is kind of the intense side of architecture. It's long hours, it's always a bit busy, it's never your design, it's always somebody else's design, which is fine. But for me, one of the main reasons why I started doing 3D and then actually quit architecture and focus on 3D only was that I could see the results much quicker. Architecture obviously takes years until you see the house or the university or whatever, a museum. Ideally, everybody wants to work on museums, and in 3D it's basically maybe a day or two or even 5 days if it's a master plan exterior or whatever. So that was basically it. And what I did with photography basically is to do the same thing I did with architecture. With photography, you get the instant results on your screen if you shoot digital. So that was something that always inspired me. So I've kept shooting for years and years, 15 years easily, always with a camera somewhere. And that was the reason why Australia kind of got me hooked. After graduating architecture, I packed my backpacks, and actually came over on a work and holiday visa, which is super easy to do if you're younger than 30 years old, I think, nowadays. I think it's 30 years old. I think, I don't want to exaggerate, but I think everybody can get a visa for 1 year and live and work, which is the interesting part, live and work in Australia for, like I said, 1 year. So that's what I did straight after uni, straight after graduation, even before I started my first job. So I was here and then bought a van, the usual backpacker story. It's the backpacker story that I'm annoyed now when I drive to the city and see all the crappy vans causing traffic jams and stuff. So I get all German about that. So that was basically my reason why I kind of, well, I don't want to say fell in love with Australia, but really enjoyed being here. So I stayed, for the first time, I stayed about 10 months. It was great. I worked like the usual casual backpacker jobs, like farm work or cafe work, like waited tables, or even kitchen boy. Basically everything that brought me money. And the point was to get as much money in as little time as possible, so you have funds to travel and do snorkeling, and then, I don't know, swim somewhere up north in the Great Barrier Reef or whatever, like all those nice things you see on the internet. So I did that for 10 months. Then I went back, worked. I did my master's after 3 years, 4 years. After 3 years working in, it's called media management. It's called architecture media management. It's basically an architecture marketing degree, which was really interesting because it was about communication and marketing in relation to architecture and real estate. Really interesting, and that was something that I wanted to specify in anyway. And then at some point, after meeting my girlfriend, I've always had the idea to go back and actually live here and be able to say, okay, I live in Australia. I know what it's like to live here and work here and basically earn Australian dollars and spend Australian dollars and be integrated and assimilate and be part of the culture. That was something that really inspired me, and really I really liked the idea of doing that at some point. So we waited a little bit, got everybody on board as friends and family, mainly family, basically, because when you say you're emigrating, it's not. I mean, Germany, you could emigrate to Italy and Italy, yeah. To Italy, Spain, or whatever, and it would be an hour's flight wherever you go. But Australia, it's a day's flight, so that's quite a bit. So we had everybody on board at some point, and then I started looking into visas, because the work and travel visa was out the door. You had it once in your lifetime, and that's it. And there's a loophole, a small loophole, but that's nothing that we considered of doing. So we looked into founding a company in Australia and then being able to sponsor ourselves, which is a huge adventure. It's like a massive thing to do. So that was basically not an option pretty quickly. And then at some point we looked into sponsorings further on, but I never had the idea to actually approach companies, like neither architectural firms or render companies, to say, that's my portfolio. Do you guys sponsor? And I didn't know that existed, to be honest, like from a company's point of view. And to be honest, I didn't think that my portfolio was good enough. I'm honest. But then what happened out of nowhere was I got in touch with somebody, with an Austrian guy living in Sydney and working for Binyan Studios.
Who's this person?
It's Florian Wegerer.
He came to the D2 conference in Vienna.
I know. He will be there this year as well. So
I talked to the guy. He's a super cool guy.
Yeah, I love him.
I really like his attitude. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Okay, so what I used to do back then was post my work on the usual Facebook 3D groups, basically, like just to get feedback, just to get some exposure as a freelancer and so on, the usual stuff. And out of nowhere, he commented on one of them. He was probably just being polite and saying, "Well, nice one, great job." No critic really, just saying, "Good job." And then I looked him up on Facebook and then basically just stalked him. So just read where he was living, what he was doing, just basically trying to connect, to network at some point. And then I saw, okay, he lives in Sydney, he works for this and that company, and he's an anarchist dude as well. So I added him, we got in touch, we talked really briefly, and at that point his partner was pregnant with their second baby, so I didn't want to bother him too much, because we bonded pretty quickly, I would say. But nonetheless, I still said, well, dude, that's my PDF portfolio, and if you happen to have a minute time, we'll spend at work, maybe you could forward my portfolio to your manager or to the CEO, to Andre. That would just mean the world to me. And then if not, don't bother. I don't want to bother, because I know you're busy, you know, family planning and stuff. Then just don't worry. He did forward it to Andre. At that time, Andre was on holidays up north, East Coast, somewhere with his family. We had a Skype interview a couple of days later. An hour after the interview, I had a signed contract to work for him, and the sponsoring as well. And then he got me in touch with their migration agents. So they got in touch with me pretty quickly. And I think close to 3 months later, we actually rented our first apartment here in Sydney. So it was like a really, really short time from, Flo, do you mind maybe just do me a favor, without knowing each other really, but just do you mind, to, hey, Andre, yeah, we're here. And Andre was like, okay, so when do you start? Because we need you, actually. They were growing, they were exploding in size and work. They were really busy at that time. Well, they still are, really. But I said, do you mind? Let me just get an apartment first, maybe, not necessarily Airbnb, because my missus was here as well, or is here as well, and I didn't want to leave her with that. So I wanted to be a good boyfriend, partner, and contribute to that bit. And he was fine with that. So it took us just like 2, 3, 4 days to get the first apartment. And then the day after, I started at Binyan and stayed there for 3 years, pretty much.
How old are you right now? You're like 37, 6, 7?
6.
Okay, great. So
yeah,
you're
better than 7.
81, 82, 81. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're, I'm 82, you're 81. And you see, it's very inspiring to hear this, because as I said, this is one of the questions that I get asked the most. A lot of people want to go to Australia because it seems like it's this mecca for artists and everybody who really wants to do serious archivism. Seems that they have to go to Australia because there is something happening there.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, I think Binyan is one of the companies who are really pushing the boundaries in terms of quality and being professional about the entire industry, and trying to not only improve their status within the industry and in the world, but as well to to lift it up from this almost amateur style, almost neglected art form into something really respectful and which is good. I mean, we need global players.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's true. You're saying it. This is a topic that has come very often in other conversation that I've had with people. That the industry needs people that take bigger commitments, also in terms of scale. And I think that talking to Andre and Chris, they are on top of their game, and they're doing everything that they can to bring at least where they are to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree with you. They introduce aspects of a company of being professional and corporate, but in a good way, into an industry that's not really corporate and that professional, maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like they bring those. It's like oil and water, and then making it work somehow, and then they're benefiting from it by doing it at 110%.
Yeah.
That's basic.
And I think that, you know, this transpire a lot when you get in touch with the reality, you know. I don't know, I really like them, and I really hope that we're gonna get into a situation soon where I can come and visit Australia. I don't want to say anything, but there might be a chance that this could happen soon. Could be good. It could be good to move some things also down under. But anyway, I want to get a little bit into your profession. So you basically start as a 3D artist. You've been doing a lot of work. I remember looking at your work a while ago, and then I remember you going to Australia, and I was like, okay, so, you know, when you see something like this happen, you go like, okay, so his work really was that good. Because, you know, sometimes you look at the work of somebody and you question, is it really that good? Is it just something that happened once? You know, a lot of people have those kind of projects. Then, you know, you started working as a 3D artist. Which role did you cover in whilst working as a 3D artist?
At the beginning, when I started at Binyan, I think they brought me over as a 3D artist, mid-level 3D artist. And to be fair, when I saw the quality in the studio of mid-level 3D artists, I wasn't really smashing it. And yet I survived 3 years and made my way from this 3D artist to when I resigned, I was a senior associate, creative lead mix, and it was fine. But I mean, I'm totally honest with you. When the time I worked freelance in Germany for 6-7 years before I actually moved to Sydney and got employed for the very first time. By the way, that was Andre and Binyan were my very first employer. So the 3 years at Binyan, in those 3 years, I learned way more than I learned in 6-7 years of freelancing in Germany. Easily. I mean, in the first month, I probably learned more than in those years, and that's totally due to the credit to Binyan and those artists who are willing to share their knowledge, and just a great bunch, really.
I wanna just I'll stop you right here, guys. If you have any questions, if there is anything that you wanna ask, I'm keeping an eye on the chat, so you know. Feel free to ask questions, and then I can pass these questions over to Martin. Also, if this is the very first time that you're tuning in and you don't know about my channel, what I'm trying to do here is to share as much as possible of the collective knowledge so that, you know, we can all grow together as a community and be better artists, be better business people doing this type of work. So, you know, Martin, again, thank you for taking the time. I just wanted to send a little reminder to people. Anyway, you were working as an artist. You grew and you gained, you know, a lot of knowledge doing this. But then you decided to make this shift towards photography.
Well,
I'm gonna overlay some of your work so that people can see it, so that they know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
It is just amazing.
Thank you. You can overlay, and I can talk a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
About the reasons. I tend to do that sometimes, like to open new books, new chapters in life, and I've always been afraid of that not being the smartest decisions in my professional life. I mean, if you stay with the company longer and work harder and then contribute to their success, I mean, careers develop just just from that exactly, not by changing jobs and starting new careers, new career paths, as in my case in different companies. So I realized that I tend to do that at some point, which is probably not always the smartest decision to do, really. But at some point, I
can relate to that.
You know, but at some point, I'm sure you're with me on that. You feel like you get this now or never feeling that kind of grew on you, and you decided to give in and say, okay, yes, the inner voice is right, we should do that, and it's basically now or never. Let's just go for it. And as long as you know yourself well enough in terms of, yeah, it's going to be difficult and it's not going to be easy, and I might have to sacrifice an existing career that's basically just waiting for me to grab. You might have to sacrifice money and nights of sleep or whatever. But as long as you're aware of that, and you have this professional approach to yourself, I think it's all good. And I've never regretted it as often as I did it, but I've never did regret it in a way that I said, oh, dude, why did I do that? And then, no. I mean, everything that I did in the past led me here. You know,
yeah.
It's whether it's mistakes or good things, good decisions, or I don't know, whatever. Meeting my girlfriend and staying in Germany just to figure out the family thing until we moved over. Everything that you do leads you in a certain way, and I think what I've always been stuck with is that I don't really regret decisions. I try to, even so, if it's a bad decision, I learn from it, and then I move on. That's it. I don't sit there and cry and say, oh, why did I do that? It's just an absolute waste of time. But deciding to move on from 3D like entirely, because I haven't touched 3D Studio Max in 2 months, and that's in the past, I don't know, 15 years. That's never been the case, like ever. Even personal projects, you know, you have like a long weekend, or you're on vacation, but the missus has to work because she didn't get that holiday. Then you just do what you like doing. And I've always enjoyed doing 3D, obviously, but I've always enjoyed it for the reason of that visual aspect of the workflow that I had, like spending a ton of time on composition, for example, like not being able to decide, or finding nicer camera angles or whatever. So that's always something that's like a red line through my portfolio and through my motivation. It was architecture, who was very pleasing to the eye for me. It was just a nice thing to look at. Then it was 3D and Max and Corona and whatever there is. It was pleasing for me to look at. It was nice to look at. And then photography, same thing. It's just that visual aspect, that visual communication aspect, that you can actually touch people's feelings with that, if it's not too cheesy.
No, absolutely
that's not. That's something that I really like doing. I'm like, it just blows my mind every time I see a really nice photograph, or I see like a masterpiece in 3D, or you know, flicking through Alex Roman's book. It's like, dude,
you know, it's I can totally understand what you're saying, and I go a little step further by saying that when I do see very good work, or like when I see a beautiful photograph, the first thing that comes to my head is like, I want to make this in 3D.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I spend so much time copying the work of others just to see what goes on in your mind when you create something like this. I don't know, maybe this is my own personal way to process creativity.
Yeah.
And it's what I thought when I saw your pictures. I was like, oh, there is this one I'm gonna make myself.
What I hear from friends and former colleagues is, when they look at my photography, is that they look like renders. And I don't know if I should take it as a compliment or not, but I should, because they wouldn't like, just be mean to me for no reason.
Of course not.
But that's absolutely something that I agree with. I try to take photographs of architecture and real estate, obviously, the same way I used to set up cameras, basically. Like I have the same approach. In terms of composition, I'm a huge fan, and I waste time sometimes as well on just composition. And sometimes I keep in mind that article from Lasse, from Xoyo, that photographic approach, which was years ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
Almost a decade ago, I think. I don't know. Maybe not that long ago.
No. It's a little bit younger, so to say.
Yeah, a bit younger. But he was just spot on with that. I mean, if you have companies or artists in general, specifically, who have the approach of that photographic render, that photographic approach, that photorealism, that word of photo is in there already. So why not take like as many aspects as possible from photography and try to translate it into 3D and then move on from there? I mean, that's what you aim in first place anyway. So why not learn from it? Why not teach people composition? Like really teach. Forget lighting, because if you have a camera in your hand, you put it on auto or whatever, and then it will just do the trick just fine. But I mean, composition, dude, for me, it's what makes a good image is a good design, and then it's composition. That's it. And then everything else, like a one-click solution, Corona, F-Storm, or whatever.
Yeah, but that's, like getting a good camera.
Yeah, absolutely, totally.
Let me geek out a little bit, because this is something that I really like myself. Like, I have a production studio here, and I have like, you have no idea how much gear I have laying around, like
hold on,
recorders and
do you see this thing, this bad boy?
Oh no, I hate you.
Oh, hold on, do you see that stuff?
No, but already with the Ronin, you got me like. But I have you can see, like, I have one camera there, another one here, and then I have a wall of cameras over there.
That's the way.
What's your gear?
My gear is a full frame, full frame camera. I go for megapixels, like 42 megapixels, which is good. The A7R3. Some people might know it. And then what I do is, since I said that I go for the for photorealism and the photographic approaches, I use like those tilt shifts lenses.
So to correct the angles.
Correct. Nowadays you can do everything in post, in Lightroom, Photoshop, Phase 1, whatever. But my opinion is, if you have to correct a photo in post in terms of verticals or perspective, whatever, every correction in my book is basically damaging the photo, is stretching pixels, is basically decreasing the quality of what you shot in first place with those.
You're right, yes.
And I don't want to do that. I want to deliver as far as I can. I want to deliver the best quality possible, that basically is approachable to me, and that's why I use those big lenses, those heavy lenses, those manual lenses, and from there I go. I've got drones. I do drones as well, and the gimbal you saw, that's actually part of my latest drone.
What did you get? What did you get? An Inspire?
No, I've got an Inspire actually, but in order to fit a massive gimbal and this camera underneath, you need a bigger drone.
Like a Exa drone or something.
I got the DJI Matrix 600 Pro.
What do they call it? The Ninja, the one with like beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, but that's again what I usually do is I upgrade stuff just to be able to deliver something usable, you know, because competition is tough in Sydney. Sydney alone has probably like 1,000 drone photographers or videographers or pilots as they call themselves. And in order to stand out somehow, you have to either keep up or offer something on top. And that's my way of keeping up, at least, I guess. And I like to think that coming from an architecture background, from a 3D background, I might know a tiny bit better what artists are after, I guess, rather than being just a pilot with a pilot license or a drone license and not really enjoying taking photos, because that's what I do in first place, whether it's on ground level or aerials. That doesn't really matter.
Was it difficult for you to get the license?
I got my license when I was on a temporary visa, so it wasn't difficult. You just have to do the course, which is I think 5-day full-time course, and then you have to pass a written test and a flight test as well. You have to fly a figure of eights and stuff, and do certain things. But once you do that, you have to do some minor things on top of that. With that new drone, I have to get like a license on top of a license, because it's big and heavy and dangerous, and insurances want that as well. But it was fine. It's all doable and possible and easy, pretty much.
This is awesome, man. You know, it's in Israel it's a little bit easier. Like you only have to buy an insurance, and you have to join like the aviation club. But even if you don't, you know, they develop drones in this country, so they are not gonna tell you cannot fly it. You know, they really don't care. But I was in Venice like a couple of weeks ago, and actually there it's absolutely no flight zone. So, you know, the drone won't even take off. And if I only knew it, because I carried it with me all the way there, you know, it's
No, but it's really tricky. Australia is really, really good in those regards, and I would say at the forefront with licensing and insurances and teaching, basically. When I did my license, we had a guy from the States there, from a university somewhere, who was actually taking notes on the steps of licensing pilots, because they were trying to introduce something similar, something more sophisticated over there, and their standards like a year ago when I did it weren't really that high compared to Australia. So Australia is really restricted, but at the same time quite safe.
I see.
Which is good.
Dude, there are some more people coming in, so I'm just gonna make another reminder. We're about 30 people watching, which is good. It's a good average. I think that the record was made by Adan, but, you know, he brought the whole of South America, and I had like at one point 110 people watching.
Wow.
Hi guys, welcome back. You know, it's nice to see you. It's nice to see that all the same people are always watching this stuff. If you have any questions, please do write them. I'm keeping an eye on the chat so that I can pass these questions over to Martin. Martin, listen, how did you then make the switch between 3D and photography? Like, how did you think, okay, now I can probably only focus on photography and maybe I have some clients, or how do you get started? Because, like, I think this would be the goal for a lot of people to say, you know what, now I'm so good at what I do, I'll get myself a camera and I'll start shooting buildings instead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and start calling yourself a photographer.
Yeah,
that's still something I don't really grasp in terms of how freaking awesome this is to maybe at some point call yourself a photographer and pay your bills taking pictures. That's okay. So like I said, photography has always been a really strong passion of mine. So I've always been into that, and I think skills-wise, knowing a camera and knowing at least a little bit about composition and lighting and this sort of stuff, I think I've had that at some point in time. But working for Binyan, for example, at some point, and working on images, obviously, and being a creative lead and dealing with contractors like photographers and drone photographers, we, in terms of back then, me being part of Binyan, I have to be careful. Back then, we realized, okay, it's not that easy to brief photographers who are not artists, so they don't really know what we expect as a final product.
Okay.
And we had quite, at the beginning at least, we had quite a few issues where photographers just delivered something and didn't pay attention to lighting, angles, or foreground, background, midground, this sort of stuff. And we had to argue with them, maybe even send them back out and then say, no, dude, you just need to reshoot. We can't actually use that to what we usually do with it. So communication was a big one back then. And since I've always posted stuff online, at some point, one of the guys said, why don't you just do it for us? And that was basically like a chaka moment when I said, I guess I could do that. Well, if you insist, then I'll just do that. And then I took a few photography projects, basically that you would use for interiors looking out shots, and usually the interior looking out shots in Sydney or in Australia are quite decent, because the looking out shots that you would actually put in a brochure or put online as a marketing image, they usually are combined with ocean views or harbor views or whatever. So it wasn't a bad thing to do really on the site. So I did that. At some point I kept doing it for, I would say, about a year on the site, whilst being part of Binyan. And Binyan at that time were I have to say generous enough to allow me to do that. So they accepted, okay, that's his passion, he's going to do that probably one way or another anyway, so why not have him do it for us so we can benefit from it. And then I had a really like I said, generous agreement with Andre and Chris, where I said, okay, I'm not going to neglect any of my 9-to-5 work, which is basically images. And since photography usually is sunrise or sunset, nice lighting scenarios, it wouldn't affect that 9-to-5 anyway. So that worked out pretty well right from the start. And yeah, like I said, I kept doing that for about a year, and then introduced drone photography as well at some point. And at some point I said, well, I would love to do that full time, maybe. And I said, there's not much we can do. If that's your passion, you have to follow your passion, and you have to follow what you believe in, what you want to do for a living. They were really casual about that, and really forthcoming, and it worked out great. I mean, I've got them as a client, for example, and having Binyan Studios in your client portfolio is not the worst thing in the world, to be honest.
Do you do photography also for other archivist studios?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you name some or?
Sure. When I resigned, I had a 4 weeks notice, I think it was. So in that time, I started to reach out to Arcvis Studios, knowing that they might want what Binyan wanted. And then I reached out to Duck and Wolf, for example, here in Sydney. Flo actually used to work for them, by the way. Then I reached out to Justin, Blank Canvas. And to Luca and Romain from Synthetica. Fantastic boys, really lovely. We had a coffee, and then they were keen because they made the experience with photographers or with pilots, drone pilots before, and they were pretty keen to see, okay, he's actually an artist as a background, maybe even an architect, but that really didn't matter. But they were happy to see what I can do and what I can deliver as a project, and that was nice. It was a great conversation. So we're gonna work together as well. And then at some point I started approaching architects as well, because the thing that I have is that it's basically that I don't want to focus on delivering a product for somebody who can use it to deliver their product in a better way. I would like to, and I reckon that's my ego talking. I would like to deliver an artwork of myself as well, like proper architectural photography, for example. Like call myself an architectural photographer is an ego thing, I guess. It's totally ego. But I did that, and I had positive feedback as well, and then it kind of all lines up pretty nicely, and
there are a couple of things that I want to ask you. First, one of the questions I was reserving for a little bit later, but Christiana actually asked it first. You know, one of the things that kind of make me follow you is your passion for motorbikes. Like, I don't know if you own a motorbike, but I know that you like motorbikes. I see you liking pictures of like cafe racers and stuff, and I like those. And actually, I plan to interview an office that does custom builds because of other reasons, but you will see. I love the fact that, you know, you can take something old and you can make it into something beautiful, contemporary, by using a set of skills, you know. And I don't know why, but I keep seeing you liking the same motorbikes that I like. I see you posting pictures of bikes. Do you have a motorbike yourself?
Well, you just said that you're going to interview some like a shop to do custom. You're actually interviewing somebody who customized an old bike and made it into something that's called Cafe Racer.
Yeah, exactly.
I did that. I finished my project I think a year ago, roughly. So I took a just really quickly, because that's off topic. A 1972. You want to? Fair enough. Then it's your channel. I took a 1972 Honda CB450, which is a nice twin engine, light engine.
The 4.4 or
the
4.4?
No, it's a 2-in-2 exhaust. It's a 2-cylinder 450cc.
Okay.
So I took that. I chopped it apart. I welded stuff on it, and I was basically just learning by doing. It was my first weld project, and then I ripped out the entire electrics and then redid everything from scratch. And it's not on Frames Instagram, it's on my personal Instagram. If you scroll down really far, then you'll see one of the many pictures that I've posted. But yeah, cafe racers, that's right up my alley.
I'm fighting with my wife because she said that, you know, for my birthday I was gonna get myself a motorbike, and then she said, no, I don't want you to die. I had one.
It's not about...
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I had one, but then it got destroyed. Somebody parking a car, they once they ran over it, and another night somebody drunk drove in it. Luckily, never when I was on top of it, but you know, it's a bit of a shame. But anyway, going back to the architecture of photography. First of all, the question that I need to ask, because I need to make sense of everything. First of all, how did you learn pricing? Like an image, you know that you work for a certain time, you know, making it in 3D. But how do you transfer that kind of knowledge into making pictures? Because arguably, you know, a picture is one click. So what do we do? Do we price it for the click, or do we price it for the value that the picture has? You know what I mean?
Yes. To begin with, it's never just one click. But
I'm playing the client. What? $5,000 for a click?
I had the advantage, and I was lucky enough to be on the other side, to be the client for architectural photographers. Basically, in my role as a artist, creative lead who dealt with photographers, so I knew their pricings, and that's basically something that I took over and wrapped up nicely and called it a package that clients would get from me. Because it's never, in terms of grant photography, for example, just a quick side note. What I do with grant photography is usually for DA images, for council permission images, like photo merge stuff, where you need to see the context of a building. So what I usually do is I shoot the site itself from that point where artists want me to shoot, and then I shoot something further up the road, further down the road, to give some more options. Obviously, being me, basically an artist as well, maybe just experimenting. And do you trust me? Every time I did that, my clients actually were happy that I did that, because they looked at something that wasn't their idea in first place, and they appreciated it, regardless if they went with it or not. But they just were happy about me. And it's a nice phrase, under promising and over delivering. That's something that works really, really great. Being a fresh fish in the pond and having to, you know, to penetrate a market that's really saturated, especially in Sydney. But that's what I do, for example. Then I go to the site, to the actual site, and then shoot reflection maps. So whether or not you render a daytime or nighttime image, you might need reflection maps. And then what I do as well is I shoot custom HDRs from that point with that lighting. So my package consists of the actual photography, reflections, and custom HDRs. So you get this lighting at that time of day from that spot. And there's basically an easier workflow for artists to match the light, because it's not really matching the lighting. It's my photography and my HDR, and it's the same time of day, same conditions, same cloud cover or whatever. And I think it's a nice product that helps my clients to be more productive, more effective in their time. And I'm not more expensive than others, so why not choose me over somebody else who's not necessarily an architect or a 3D artist or whatever. So that's totally fine. And I've been thinking of other things that I might introduce as well, having the background of a 3D artist, and it's always good. Just like if you take a daytime shot, for example, all you do is put a ND filter on top, and then basically blurry out the cars that are driving through. And then you add like 10 images of blurry cars on top of that actual photo. And then artists have the flexibility to brush in maybe a moving car here and there, and then have to render it, and then render it with motion blur, and then that takes time and stuff. Just take one of my pictures that are blurry already, just mask it in, brush it in, and then it's fine. I mean,
but looking at it from I mean, let me just make a roundup of this whole thing that you just said, because, you know, for you, this might be normal, but I want people watching at home to understand how you've been able to bridge the gap between who you are and what you can do and the service that you produce. Because, you see, that's what clients do. Clients say, I want architecture photography. They think of the photograph. The photograph is the product of what you do. So, you know, it has that final symbolic value. What you're doing, you're coming up with a whole set of other things that you can add to this in order to add value. All of a sudden, your picture is not just a picture, it's a service. You know, you're giving artists and your client a full service that other people that might be thinking, okay, I'll just do photographs of buildings, they might not think of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, helping, well, you named the right word already. You're giving them a tool. And especially for my clients who are 3D studios, my product being a tool that helps them to make their product either faster or better or more valuable to their clients. And that's basically it. For architecture photography that I do for clients, it's basically a tool for their marketing. It's a tool for their Instagram account that makes them look better, that makes them look maybe different or stand out of the crowd somehow, ideally. But that's exactly it. That's why I don't limit myself to photos, for example. I do like videography or time lapses, being part of animations, either 3D animations or like films and stuff. It's basically, the word frames actually comes from that bottom line thing that combines all of my disciplines. It's basically the photography is just one frame. A time lapse can be 1 frame per second. A videography can be 25 frames per second, and so on and so forth. So it's basically that name that carries all my product, I guess.
Yeah, this is very clever. Because like then with the time lapse, you can create some sort of like fake animation. You know, you put your building in the middle, and you can. It's really freaking cool, man.
Yeah, it's something that really pushes my buttons. It's something that really motivates me to stay out maybe an hour longer just to get that lighting. And that's something we had issues with normal photographers. They were on site, they took that picture, really weren't paying attention to the nice lighting, to that golden hour, because it was maybe an hour away from when they arrived. Maybe staying until twilight or whatever. And then when I'm booked for half a day, for example, then it's not necessarily that I stay on site for 4 hours, because you don't have to do that. You just pick your times, which is a nice daytime image, maybe a sunset and a twilight image. So it wouldn't take me 4 hours to take those shots. But it's the post-production that comes into place as well, and you want to deliver something really nice and professional, not just the raw files. Maybe an option with a different sky, something like that. I mean, we've all been there. Something that you do or used to do as a 3D artist, maybe replacing a sky because the sky was just a blue gradient thing, totally boring. Maybe you want something more dramatic. That's something that I might provide in first place as an option, for example.
This is incredibly inspiring, Martin, I have to say. There is a question from Mirko. He says, did you ever think of doing like some photogrammetry with your drone?
Now that you're bringing it up, no, not yet. But I know that Mirko, who happens to be my favorite 3D modeler in the galaxy, actually, that's something. And knowing that he's into that, that might be something that we, might collaborate on. I provide the gear and knowledge, and he provides coffee or something. I don't know.
He's quite the photogrammetry guy, right?
Oh, he's in terms of, like I said, and I wasn't joking. In terms of modeling, if you check out his account, for example, it's just pushing the boundaries and really always being eager to learn and to test out new things and to push the boundaries and being just totally motivated. That's basically right up his alley. What photography is with me, and composition and that visual aspect. He is totally into this geeky, nerdy modeling stuff, and he's one of the best. I know, really. Anyways,
he's saying lol and ha ha ha. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised that he's not saying Kartoffel or something, because that's what he usually says. Which is to the non-German speakers, it means potato. I don't know why he would say that.
Well, you know, he's from the edge, so to say, between the Italians and the German-speaking people.
Yes.
So you know, it's
yes.
They have a lot of ways to call German-speaking people over there.
I'm sure they have.
I want to ask you one last thing, because believe it or not, we've been talking for an hour already.
Really? Yes. True. Okay, shoot. Anything you want.
If somebody is thinking to go into photography and they've had this itch, so to say, for a while, and they're thinking, okay, there is somebody that has done it already, this inspired me to go out and do it myself, what would you recommend them to do, especially, you know, if they're thinking to start their own business?
Practice, and it sounds like I sound like my mother, but it's really the case. I mean, I've been into photography for at least 15 years and never even dreamt of being able to pay my bills doing this, using one of those and then taking photography. But there's, especially nowadays with Instagram and all the other visual platforms, absolutely everybody is a photographer out there, and they're practicing every single day by using this on their Snapchat or Instagram. So making it in photography, and that's not something that I consider myself doing, but making it in photography is like a lottery win. It's super tricky. I don't think nowadays that you can do that by simply being a photographer and specializing in one niche. I think it's rather the opposite way. What I've always hated about architects is, for example, me being an architect as well, is that we considered ourselves being generalists, knowing everything, being able to do everything, being able to comment on graphic designs in architecture and everything else. I hated that. But now doing photography for a living and videography and the other things, I realized that you have to be able to offer more than just photography. And unfortunately, as harsh as it sounds, it is just photography. It's nothing that makes you stand out in any way. And that's not me trying not to get more competition, but don't come to Sydney and call yourself a photographer, because that's what brings out the German in me. But that's really, really tricky. And the way I did it was neither planned, no scripted, it was just a pure coincidence. When somebody asked me, Martin, could you maybe take a few photos for us, that the other guy just didn't do it the right way. And then it moved on from there. Some people, especially my former colleagues, they said, well, nicely played, Martin, nicely played. I wish I were that clever, that smart, and having planned it right from the start, being sponsored by an awesome company, being brought over to Sydney, Australia, living here, now having my permanent residency, and then moving on from that company and being a photographer and making a living out of it. I mean, I would have never imagined to be doing that nowadays, like nowhere. But breaking it down basically to the question, find more than a niche and find something that makes you stand out by delivering different photography or more than just photography. Ideally, you know people already who might be your clients, or I don't know, work for free. I mean, I'm sure you watched that video from Peter McKinnon. Sorry, I think he posted a video once on the topic, why do I work for free, or something like that. And he basically said, I mean, bringing your name out there and then gaining exposure of some sort, and that's what I do as well. the work you see on Instagram, for example, is not commissioned. Well, it's not all commissioned work by far. What I usually do is, and I'm not booked out. I don't work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. That's not what I do. Especially as a photographer, it's nothing that we do anyway.
You're putting yourself in that box already. I like that.
Yeah. It's not the case, because it's weather, because it's, I mean, workloads, and this sort of stuff. But when the weather is fine, I'm out there taking photography of existing buildings, of clients that I would love to work with. And that's basically it. The stuff you see there, the nice architecture, is basically clients that did not pay me to do that. But it's something that I invested in terms of time, which is money, basically, because time is always money, especially as a freelancer. But that was worth it, definitely worth it to do so, because some of them actually like my images and then DM me and say, love your images, would you like to work for us?
This is amazing.
That's basically Instagram. And I was hesitant for quite a long time to do that at this extent, but it totally pays out, man. It's a nice portfolio as well. Yeah. And I think what they introduced recently is that you can actually download all your Instagram posts in one go, which is great as well. If you have to, I don't know.
I didn't know. I should improve my Instagram game. Everybody tells me that.
Definitely. Read about the grids and the hashtagging. Less is more, definitely. I'm not playing that game very well, but
okay.
I mean, there's still time.
Martin, listen, we are 1 hour and 6 minutes in. I would say we call it the day. I want to thank you for taking the time for doing this, and I want to thank people from home watching, commenting and asking questions. It really, I love the fact that, you know, the community comes together, and when somebody has an idea to share, there's people listening. This means that, you know, we are all doing our little part in trying to make everybody a little bit more acknowledged about any topic related to our work.
Yeah.
Dude, I really hope that we're gonna get a chance soon to meet in person, and you know.
Can you tell more? Can you tell more?
maybe not on the live, but I'm gonna stop the streaming for now, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe if this is the very first time that you're tuning in. And I will see you Wednesday. There is another live, which I don't want you to miss, because it's going to be a debate about, is architecture always more important than visualization? Which is a stupid question. We know that it's a stupid question, but a lot of people seem to say it, so we're trying to tell it as it is, and hopefully, you know, we're gonna get something out of it. But anyway,
fantastic.
See you guys later. I'm gonna stop the recording. If you wanna say goodbye, I already put your Instagram and your Facebook.
Oh, fantastic!
So that, you know, people can see it. I'm gonna post it again here.
Yeah,
there
beautiful.
We go.
Thanks for that, mate. Cheers.
And it's just, you know, I actually bookmarked your work as a reference, because, you know, it's something that I can use when I want to make my own photos. So I'm pretty sure that people will find it also useful for themselves. I'm gonna stop the streaming for now. Thanks a lot again. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna say goodbye to you in a minute.
Beautiful. Will do. Thanks, boys and girls. Bye bye.